They were waiting for me to break. For anger, for tears, for something loud enough to justify what they had already decided about me. Betrayal was supposed to knock the air out of my chest. Instead, I stayed calm. And in that silence, something unexpected happened. The power they thought they held quietly slipped out of their hands. Betrayal doesn't always arrive with drama. Sometimes it walks in wearing familiarity, pretending nothing has changed. I had trusted the situation I was in, trusted the people involved. Not blindly, but sincerely. I believed that if something ever went wrong, it would be handled openly. Honestly, what I didn't realize was that some people don't want resolution. They want reaction. They want the emotional collapse because it confirms their control. It turns them into the center of the story. I didn't know it yet, but the moment that trust was broken wasn't going to be remembered for what they did. It was going to be remembered for what I didn't do, for the reaction I refused to give them. When I found out, it was sudden. Not explosive, not dramatic. Just enough information to make the truth unavoidable. Words were said casually, almost carelessly, as if the weight of them didn't matter. As if I was expected to absorb them and respond on cue. I felt it, of course. That internal jolt. The heat in the chest. The moment where your body prepares for impact before your mind catches up. Betrayal always brings that split second where everything inside you wants to react. To defend. To demand answers. I didn't. Not because I didn't care. Not because I didn't understand the seriousness of what had happened. I stayed calm because something in me recognized the setup. The way the room felt. The way eyes lingered just a little too long, waiting for my response. They were expecting chaos. I could see it in the pauses. In the way explanations were half-formed, ready to pivot based on my reaction. I realized then that my emotions were supposed to complete the moment for them. My anger would validate their justification. My pain would excuse their behavior. So I gave them nothing. I acknowledged what I had heard. I asked a simple question. My voice didn't rise. My expression didn't shift. And in that calm, something strange happened. The energy changed. The confidence they had walked in with didn't know where to land. They tried again. Added details. Framed the betrayal as inevitable. Necessary. Misunderstood. Each attempt was designed to provoke something from me. And each time, I responded evenly. That's when the discomfort started to surface. Because calm doesn't give manipulators anything to work with. It doesn't escalate. It doesn't collapse. It forces people to sit with what they've done without the distraction of your reaction. I could feel them losing control of the narrative. Without my emotional response, their version of events sounded thinner. Less convincing. The story they had rehearsed depended on me playing my part. Silence became the loudest thing in the room. They began to explain themselves too much. To contradict earlier statements. To justify things no one had asked them to justify. Calm creates space, and in that space, truth tends to leak out. I didn't confront them directly. I didn't accuse. I didn't need to. The absence of reaction became its own confrontation. Later, I was told I seemed detached. Cold. Unbothered. As if restraint was an insult. As if dignity was a provocation. What they didn't understand was that my calm wasn't forgiveness. It was observation. I was watching the way the betrayal unfolded when it didn't get the reaction it was designed for. I was learning more in that silence than I ever could have learned by reacting. The days that followed were revealing. The people involved kept checking for cracks. For delayed anger. For emotional fallout they could respond to. But there was none. And that unsettled them. Because when betrayal doesn't destroy you, it exposes the intention behind it. It forces everyone to see who needed you to fall apart in order to feel powerful. My calm didn't erase what happened. It reframed it. The focus shifted away from my pain and onto their actions. Without drama, there was no distraction. Without chaos, accountability hovered uncomfortably close. They tried to regain control by redefining me, by suggesting I was suppressing something, that I hadn't processed it properly, that a reaction would come later. It didn't. What came instead was distance. Quiet decisions. Internal boundaries. I didn't announce them. I didn't explain them. I simply changed how much access they had to me. And that was the moment the outcome truly shifted. Because betrayal expects permanence. It expects to define the relationship forever. My calm turned it into a turning point instead. They lost the ability to position themselves as victims of my reaction. There was no reaction. Only consequences they hadn't planned for. In staying calm, I didn't win anything dramatic. I didn't walk away triumphant. What I gained was clarity about who I was dealing with, about what they needed from me, about what I would never give them again. Time has a way of clarifying moments like this. With distance, I could see how carefully the betrayal had been staged, how much it relied on emotional predictability. They thought they knew me, thought they understood how I would respond under pressure. That miscalculation changed everything. By refusing to collapse, I disrupted the power dynamic. I stopped being a character in their story and became an observer of it. And observers have a kind of quiet authority. I learned that calm isn't passive. It's deeply confrontational when someone expects you to react. It denies them the leverage they were counting on. I also learned something uncomfortable about myself. How often I had equated emotional intensity with honesty. How much I had underestimated the strength of restraint. Staying calm didn't mean I wasn't hurt. It meant I chose not to let that hurt be used against me. Some people only feel powerful when they can control the emotional temperature of the room. When you refuse to participate, their influence shrinks. The betrayal didn't end with reconciliation. It ended with repositioning, with me deciding where I stood without needing agreement or validation. That calm followed me forward, into how I handle conflict, into how I read situations, into how quickly I recognize when someone needs chaos to feel significant. What they intended as humiliation became a quiet lesson in power. They expected me to break because breaking would have made them comfortable. I stayed calm because I didn't owe anyone my collapse. So ask yourself this. When someone betrays you, are they prepared to face it without your reaction to hide behind? And if you stayed calm, would it change the outcome or expose it? If this made you think differently about power and restraint, sit with that. Share your perspective. And stay here if you want to explore more moments where silence rewrites the ending.